Hello, this is Scott Herbst. I am founder and president of Six Flex Training and Consulting, and you are listening to or watching The Flex, a podcast where we have conversations with people who are expressing leadership with the intention that it give you access to expressing yours. I am really pleased to introduce you today to Christina Gravina. Christina is the CEO and president of Built, which stands for Bridging Independent Living Together. They are a company that specializes in providing in-home and community-based services to teens and adults with disabilities all over the state of Massachusetts. As usual, I really want you to hear Christina's story from Christina. So I am going to turn it over to her and say, Christina, welcome and thank you for being here.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, my pleasure. As I always do, I am really interested in what you can start as far back as you want. And, you could share about how you got into the field of behavior analysis. And where I'm really interested in taking the story is towards what had you found Built. And then what has that journey and experience been like?
Sure. So I started working with adults with intellectual disabilities when I was still in high school. I had started working in group home residences as a direct care staff, and I just remember one of my first jobs thinking like, wow, these are my people. I love working with adults. I love being able to bring them out and do fun things. I had also worked with children, and I realized that while I enjoy working with children, their energy level and my energy level doesn't always mix well. So maybe I'm better with the adults that might be a little calmer, and I'm kind of more low key. So throughout my journey, I kind of worked my way up throughout different group home agencies, going from a direct care staff to an assistant manager, a manager, then a behaviorist overseeing multiple group homes, helping with behavior planning. And one of the things I really found was that a lot of the organizations I worked for, everything was very cookie cutter. It was like the same behavior plan almost for the same person with just a different name every single place I went, as well as I felt that the staff in adult services really don't receive as much training or oversight as they need to be successful at their job. And ultimately, the individuals really didn't have a lot of choices or sort of engaging activities to choose from. It was kind of like, every Saturday, let's go to Dunkin' Donuts and go to the mall. And it's like, yeah, but there's a farmer's market, or, there's this really cool strawberry festival they could go try out. There's, the world is your oyster. And I kind of realized that when you're working in adult services, the squeaky wheel is looked at as the annoying wheel. Why do you always have to do things differently? Why do you always have to, want to do things so extra? So I kind of thought, well, I don't really want to do residential because I think that's a whole lot of commitment I have to personally give. But I think I could really create a unique program where we're catering to teens and adults and that we are giving them these choices where, if they want to go to a concert, like we might not be able to do that today, but let's make steps towards it because that's something that they find important. Or,
Yeah.
maybe sometimes you have a guy or a girl and they want to go to a strip club and they're of age, and you know what, it's like that's part of a life experience that we can provide, as long as all the consents are in place and they're allowed to make their own decisions. So I truly believe in sort of having people live the life that they want to live.
I love that. Um, I am so curious because this, I think, is an unusual model. And, like a lot of people who I talk with anyway, who work with adults, tend to work residential.
Yeah.
And so I am curious, people will be really interested in this, is how did you have this vision and also realize, well, here's what I want to do, and here's the difference I'd like to make, and shepherd that through to actually becoming a business that has grown into providing services over the entire state of Massachusetts.
Yeah, so I would say the vision really was from a couple things. I think working in these settings, when I first actually started taking classes and doing my supervised hours to become a BCBA, I kept thinking like, wow, this is so boring most of the time. But I also kept feeling like, wow, we're doing these like match to sample sort of situations for adults that this isn't really very meaningful for them. Like they're
Yeah.
sitting here learning how to match a stop sign symbol to a stop sign symbol, but this isn't someone that's ever going to drive or be in the community alone. But what they could be focusing on is working on like how to make their own food, how they like it, which might be something that like they could really add value to their life because now they don't have to keep, getting upset if it's not right. They could really learn to tweak it. And I found that in group homes, and I had also worked in day programs, that when you have a staffing ratio of one staff to 5 or 6 individuals, you're not focused on individuality, you're really
Yeah.
focused on safety. And maybe you can provide some fun experiences, but it's not the most engaging things that the individuals could be doing. So what I created was, while we do the in-home services and the community services, almost all the services are one-to-one based, with either the state or insurance paying. But then additionally, at our center in Woburn, I created it so that we have 3 different classes that goes on every single day, and individuals can pick and choose what they want to do. So that way they're getting their choices. So like today, this morning, they had theater class, now is healthy living, and tonight is art. So if someone wants to come to all 3, that's great. If someone doesn't like anything going on today, they don't have to come at all. They can go do their own thing. And so by offering these sort of a la carte classes, people have the choice to choose what they want to do with their life and choose what they want to do that matches their interest, rather than just kind of being, brought into a facility where they're there for 6 hours and they don't get to choose. They don't get to choose anything that they do that day.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. And I don't know if I forget exactly how much of my story I shared in the run up to having you here, but I actually got my start in this field in group homes. And I was going to be a high school English teacher. And then the last thing they have you do when you're going to be a high school English teacher is actually teach. And that's when I realized I don't really like this. And so I took a job in an agency that serves mostly adults, and worked as a manager, because I did have some management experience along with some degree requirements. I found out later to move into a more clinical role, based on my teaching history. So love what you're sharing about, like there's that need there for sure, and I can relate to all you said. People are focused on safety and making sure people are. It's like a very basic needs oriented thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, Now, I am curious, where what I want to focus on is your leadership journey. And I'm really interested because you've taken a vision that's very personal to you and very clearly like a self-expression for you, something that matters, right? And fits like what you enjoy and what you like to do. So, what I want to do is have a conversation where we pick apart, like maybe some of the key steps where you found things challenging and really navigated and stayed focused on, or maybe discovered along the way, like what your vision was. Um,
Right.
that someone who, has a different passion could learn something from your journey. Do you have a sense of like that first, like, oh, well, here's the need I saw, and then here's how I went to approach that and saw what I could do, and here's how it started to expand and grow, and how I navigated that.
Yeah, sure. So when I started, I would say that I thought everything was going to be a lot easier than it actually
Uh,
was in theory, especially because the company is a nonprofit organization, and I did that for the reason being that I always wanted to be able to get grants or get other sorts of funding to help with offsetting the cost of services, since so many adults, they only can rely on really their SSI money, which for many of them isn't much. So I would say that when I had all these ideas, I thought, you start a nonprofit, you start getting grants, it's easy.
mhm.
It's really not easy whatsoever. There's all of these things about grants that you don't know going into it. Like, a lot of organizations aren't even going to look at you if you apply for a grant until you've been around for 5 years. And that even though grant writing is a document, and I'm very good at sort of black and white documents, I really had to learn how to be a good storyteller of, what does this money mean to these people? I think it's easy too when you're starting a mission-driven organization that you assume everybody knows the problems of your population like you do. And you quickly find out that that's not the case. There's a whole population of the world that knows nothing about adults with disabilities. They've never been around them, nor do they really care too much about this because they might be donating already to, their other causes that they have. So I would say that I had to learn kind of from the beginning. I have to tell a great story. I have to get this story in front of people that otherwise might not ever know of this population, and how to do that without feeling, sort of unmotivated or almost a little bit like downtrodden, like, oh, I have this great idea, but nobody's listening to me. So I really had to start with sort of baby steps. When I started, it was just me and one other person, and we had 4 clients and we did everything ourselves. And then after the first year, it was like we had, I think, 10 clients. And I actually worked another full-time job and didn't pay myself for the first 2 to 3 years because I really wanted to have the company be in a good place where I felt that I could hire adequate people. I've never been someone that said that, though everything has to be done through BCBAs. So I also felt very strongly from the beginning that we have a place for an LMHC here. We have a place for a social worker, that I think by collaborating, we all might learn something, but also we might find a different way to help somebody. And we're working within our scope of practice. But if I can have a plan that incorporates an LMHC's coping skills, and that client, it works for that client, then that's okay. So I think that was a big thing I had to learn too, is that a lot of BCBAs kind of that I have met get very nervous at the thought of like collaborating with an LMHC or occupational therapist, oh, I can't do that. That's out of my scope. And it's like, yes, I'm not asking you to do something that's out of your scope, but we can work together to say, like, yes, this is where I raise my flag. I don't know how to do these occupational therapy anything, but there's a valid place for it. And if it's beneficial for the client, then let's figure out a way that we can kind of have the best of both worlds here while we both stay in our scopes of practice.
Awesome. I want to back up a little bit. And um, so you're in your first year, you've got 4 clients, you're not paying yourself, you're working a full-time job. Okay. Um, I really want to know how, and you said you did some things so that you didn't get downtrodden.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that? And um, I really want to acknowledge not paying yourself for 2 years. Like, that is really, like, no, I have a vision. And whether you would have said it that way, this way or not, there's like a certain amount of like, no, this shall be, right? Like I am not giving up on this. And I really admire that. And what I want people to get is that um one, starting a business, it probably, I mean, I hear from a lot of people like it's not easy, right? And that where it's like I'm not paying myself is something I hear from owners and uh a lot. And I also know that a lot of people have a vision. Like people have a vision. People, it's like, God, I would love to start a school, or I would love to start this, or like a day program that really delivered X, Y, or Z, or a preschool program that was behavior analytically run. Like people have visions. And so how did you how did you like you must have felt downtrodden at times where it's like, oh, this is never going to work, it's never going to turn out, etc. um what are some of the things that you did to keep yourself up and focused on your vision?
So, one of the biggest things I did was really working with the clients. I care about the clients so much that really, if I was like, wow, why am I doing this? And then I would have a day where one of our clients is can be pretty behavioral. They also have a severe seizure disorder, which is pretty intimidating for a lot of people. And so I do things with her even to this day where I take her on an airplane and we go to Florida for 3 days, and people can't believe that, I'm doing this. And I'm doing it because to bring her to these experiences really like lifts me up, and it reminds me of like, this is why I'm doing this, is so that there's somebody that can kind of, have these experiences that otherwise they wouldn't. I would say another big thing that was, helpful but not, was that we started in
Yeah.
July
Ooh,
20.
I'm going to interrupt. I want
Sure.
to pause so that people get this. And so one thing I'm really hearing is you have intentionally stayed connected to the difference your work makes.
Yes.
Yeah. So I just want to underline that for people. And I think that I'm going to offer something here that there's different ways of doing that. And what you're saying, like stay connected to the difference your work makes, is really, really important.
Yes, it is.
So I wanted to just pause there, make sure people got that. And now I'm going to let you take it away again.
Sure. Yeah, it is very important because I feel if you get too far away from the reason why you started it, it's easy to get annoyed or, feel down about multiple things. What was really helpful for us too was that since we started the company in 2019, COVID happened in 2020. So this was a time where, I would be working remotely at my full-time job, and there wasn't a whole lot to do. So after I would get done with my regular job, myself and my fiance would work on policies and paperwork and templates and all this stuff that you don't really have a lot of time for if we
Mhm.
had a ton of clients coming in. So this time was kind of almost like a godsend in a sort of way, because we did have all this time where there was really not much else to do, where I could really sit here and think like, how do I want to take clients but do it ethically, make sure the staff is well trained, make sure that we're not just another organization that's pumping people in and out, and doing it in a way where like we're losing the whole soul of why I want this. So that was a good time to sort of do that reflecting.
Yeah. Two things about that. How was it doing that with your fiance?
Sometimes we both get to the point where we're like, we don't want to talk about built, just because we live it and breathe it for, 6 years. He has a full-time job, but he still oversees the grant writer, oversees the website developer. He's very involved. So I would say it's good because sometimes it's like, oh, I can ask you a question. You're right across from me. But sometimes it's definitely that boundary of like, okay, we're going to dinner and this is a no built zone for like 2 hours while we're at dinner. We can't do it tonight.
Mm-hmm. Um, but I'm hearing that he's also, to some degree, into your vision. I would be
Yes.
surprised if he was doing this much for a company on top of a full-time job if he wasn't.
Yes.
Yeah. So the thing I want to underline there for people, and I think this is you hit on something, whether you meant to or not. It's really great to have partners and people who share the vision and are there with you and also excited about it.
Yes, and for him, he knew nothing about the disability world when we first got together. We've been together now for 11 years. And so in that time, he went from really not even being able to sort of, know how to interact with someone with a disability to now he's our DJ at our dances and he's Santa and, he's prompting people to use their AAC device to tell him what song to play.
Uh-huh.
And it's like night and day, and now he gets it and he truly believes in it because he also sees the progress that's made just from even his short interactions he sees with people here and there over the years.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, just want to draw attention to the power of partnership and for people out there who are looking to cause something, whether it's your own business or something in your community, it really works to engage with and work with other people. Personally, that's something that I've really focused on in my business is making sure I have people out there who are, if not working directly on it with me, also champions for the vision.
Yeah.
Um, but then something towards growing because you've grown for 6 years to cause what you've caused is pretty impressive, right? Um, and what I hear and what you just shared is that as you grew there and as you developed your policies were really, it sounds like an expression of your vision.
Yes.
And I know, um, well, I don't know this. I suspect. Here's what I know. A lot of times, policies are a reaction to what's wrong. And when I hear people creating policies and talk to business owners or leaders about how they created their policies, it's because they were going along, things were fine, and then this thing happened that was a problem, and they created a policy to prevent that problem in the future.
Hmm.
And it sounds like how you created, like you saw a need for policies, but really were like, okay, how does this policy express our vision and our values?
Yes.
And am I catching that right?
Yeah, and because I had worked at so many other places that had policies that I kind of always was scratching my head about, like, okay, this seems a little excessive, or like, this isn't really something as a staff member that I feel is beneficial. It kind of, like you said, maybe there was a reason this policy was in place, but to almost punish every staff member with sort of silly things, I was like, that doesn't make sense. So I wanted the policies to, number one, be clear, but I also wanted them to be fair and at the end of the day, always honor the individual and their services in the middle of everything
Yeah.
rather than staff convenience or what works the best for the staff member rather than the individual.
Yeah. I would say that in my way of talking, that would say there's a lot of integrity in your policies. And just what I mean by that is that a lot of alignment between your policies and really the difference you're out to make.
Yeah.
Those two things are aligned. That's pretty powerful. Um, I mean, that's really great. I am curious. Um, I'm curious. You may not even know because a lot of times people who do this don't necessarily. And do you have a sense about what it's taken you to have people pick up and adopt and then take ownership for your vision? Like you've done that with your husband now? Actually,
Fiance still, but one of these
fiance.
days.
Okay, yeah. So so you've done that with your fiance, right? You said you started with just a couple of like, and now you're over the state of Massachusetts, um, doing work that, like you said, it's not like you got to worry about funding and how are you going to pay. Like the funders aren't lining up for this, right? You really
Right.
kind of have to hunt for them. So, do you have a sense about that?
I would say that's been a very difficult part of growing a business is getting the right people in place that do see my vision and can take that vision and sort of replicate it.
Yeah,
Um, we have managers in place, and it's interesting because coming in from the outside, our clinical director is an LMHC. Our, clinical specialists, they are both social workers, and our general operations manager has been with us for 5 years, but she just has a bachelor's in child psychology. So I would say that from the beginning, I never sort of had this idea that like it must be only a BCBA that can ever, replicate this. I kind of look at more of like, do they understand the overall picture? Can they sort of make decisions that I would make in the best interest of the client? And are they able to sort of jump into whatever capacity they're trained and be a support system for the staff rather than sort of, I'm up here on my pillar and I'm a manager and you sort of figure it out yourself. Because I feel that's a big problem in the field in general too, is that the staff need to be supported and feel supported or else they're going to leave. And I would say I've had some issues where I hire a BCBA and they have 20 years experience and I think they're going to be great, and they come in and everything is, oh, I only want to do remote supervision, I only want to do this, I only want to do that. And I think that was a learning curve for me, where it doesn't matter if you're a BCBA for 20 years, it doesn't matter if you're a PhD BCBA, like it might just not be a good fit of what I'm looking for the company as a whole.
yeah. So it sounds like you've had some success starting with the question, are you aligned with the vision? Is this really what you want to do? And is this the difference you want to make? And then worrying about, okay, what's your credential, etc.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, there was something else in there you said. Oh, this was what I'm curious about is you said like how important it is to have people feel supported. And I think that's something that not just owners struggle with, but a first year BCBA, someone just out of graduate school, just has their credential, who's taken their first team, or someone who's just moved up from front lines into management in any industry is going to confront that challenge. Can you offer any insights there?
I would say that listening is key. I find that a lot of times as humans, we kind of assume what that other person is meaning, or we assume, maybe there's an ulterior motive for something. But what
Yeah.
I do is I just ask a lot of questions and sort of clarifying questions when people come to me. If someone's struggling with an individual, is this a training issue? Is this more you just need someone to vent to because you had a hard session? Like what
Yeah.
is the sort of support that you're seeking so that I can kind of try to best help you in that?
Yeah. I think I got it. So it's really actually, so listening for you is really connecting with and, well, clarifying and connecting what does this person really need, and verifying, do I understand what it is you really need? And I'm guessing that from there, it's what support to provide is pretty obvious and natural.
That and sometimes it is a conversation where I'm sure anyone in the field has experienced this, where sometimes the conversation then will go to, almost, well, I just don't want to work with this client because of X, Y, or Z, and that's where more than I have to get into, well, we don't discriminate here against clients. And, by saying you're not going to work with this person, that's a huge problem. And we have to figure out, is this a training issue? And if it's not a training issue, is this really the field for you, or is this the right company for you? Because you're with this individual that you're qualified to work with 8 hours in a week, their family's with them 24/7. So I need to be able to trust to a certain extent that you're going to be able to be effective in those short 8 hours that you're with them throughout the week. So I'm all into trying to support, but I also try to give very humanistic views of the individuals and their family to try to also provide a sense of, empathy almost of like, yes, I understand when you start something new, it's hard, but you need to think about how it feels for this client also that like you are running, you don't want to work with them. Like think how hurtful that is for someone that's already been rejected from so many places in their life.
Yeah. Awesome. That's great. So what I'm hearing there is support is distinct from giving people what they say they want.
Correct.
And so support is really empowering people to do their jobs, if assuming they're willing to be empowered. And it
Yes.
may be that, you know what, this is not the job for you. You're not willing to be empowered to do this. And as long as you're willing to do this, and I think this goes back to what you said about focusing on, like, do you share the vision? Do you want to make this difference? To focus on that first. And if people are on board for that, then it's like, okay, great. Let's like set you up to win.
Exactly. Yes, if you're on board, you can do it.
Yeah. Awesome. We're getting close to the time we set aside for this. I've got a couple more questions. One, we've talked a lot about what you have done. Are you willing to say about where you're headed next? And both in terms of where you're going to take your business, but also how do you see that you're going to grow and develop and work on your leadership capacity as you do?
Sure. So I would say for me as a leader specifically, what I'm really trying to focus on is advocating for wider spread change in terms of legislator, getting out there, advocating for policy reform. In Massachusetts specifically, we have a really difficult time with different state organizations following the laws. And so that's one thing where I want to really help with that avenue. I've been sort of, dealing with state services, fighting for families for years, and I really think that I can make an impact by continuing to use my voice. I've been in multiple public testimonies. I've been helping families with them going to the governor's office if needed. So, like, that's something that I, as a leader, want to focus on. I also want to empower my managers to be able to do more without feeling they need to always check with me. because they do know this is important and they want to do a good job. But I also want them to feel like, I got this. I can make this decision today and I'm empowered to do so. And Christina will be totally good with it, which usually I am. Um, and I would say for Built, we are right now continuing to sort of look at how do we scaffold in a way that's appropriate for the clients, for the staff, and so that we're not overwhelmed. I do have a couple, pilot programs, ideas that I've been going to the state about actually at this point for years, with no, really buy-in. So again, I'm not getting downtrodden. I'm just going to continue to sort of try to think of these ideas, because given that this program I've created has been so successful, we had a lot of non-believers up front, and now we have a lot of people that are seeing the difference, and they're seeing that we're serving these individuals that are one-to-ones that weren't even allowed at any programs for years because of their behaviors. And we don't have behaviors. And why is that? Because the staff are trained and they're not bored and they're getting control of their life. So I'm hoping if I can continue to sort of give this message, that I'll get more buy-in from the stakeholders that be to sort of get these other programs in place that I dream of.
Awesome. Second to last question. Just share, well, I ask people, what are you proud of? And is there anything you haven't shared yet that you want to share about, that you're proud of?
I would say I'm really proud of our individuals, in general. I think that, and I'm proud of their families and trusting us, because whenever a new program starts, buy-in is a little bit hesitant. And I've had many families or even individuals themselves say, no program has been able to handle me, or, my kid has been kicked out of 7 places already. What makes you different? And I'm like, I know that trust is hard. I know you've been like scorned. Just let us try. The least that we can do is, if it's not working, have an honest conversation about that. But I would say the trust that we've built, and that I've had now families actually openly say, if it wasn't for you, I'm not sure what we would do without Built. That to me is like, wow, I can't believe, I still can't believe how much of an impact we make. Because in my mind, I'm always feeling like I'm in like a hamster wheel. And it's not till when like someone from the outside is like, hey, you did X, Y, and Z. I'm like, wow, we did do all that. That's really cool.
Awesome. My last question for you is, how can people reach you?
Sure. So people can reach us through the website, which is www.biltne.org, builtne.org. And our main number is 978-206-1306.
Awesome. Christina, thanks so much for a lot, really. One, for standing for a population that often gets forgotten in the, not just in the world of behavior analysis, but in the world. And thank you for then coming on our episode or this podcast and taking the time to share your passion and your insights with our listeners.
Of course.
We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
Yeah. And everyone listening, this concludes this episode of The Flex. As always, tune in next time for more insights from leaders in our field.